What's something that can be a scam but people can't even conceive that it is? And what do you think? Share your opinion in the comments and have fun watching. Story 1. I personally hate the hucksters whose claims curing of your dread disease or condition with their mixture of snake oil that must be taken 3 times a day or their healthcare device that fixes the one muscle that causes everyone's back pain and sciatica. The most recent lie I saw was someone's claims that their fascia work system would rejuvenate your kidneys and pancreas for those with failing kidneys and diabetes. Such trash, and so many desperate people are trying to avoid actual treatment or are afraid of modern medicine but this crap. As a person with a chronic condition for the last 50 years, drinking apple cider vinegar, eating teaspoons of cinnamon, etc., will not cure my type 1 diabetes. Story 2 company awards. These are essentially just paid for. Applying for a job at a company who has a Most Green award says more about how they are willing to pay to appear green than any actual metrics. The companies and award judges are happy to go along with the lie because they both benefit. In fact, same thing applies to lists like Top 10 BBQs for summer, 2,024 inches 90% of the time those companies have paid to be in that list. Story 3. 90% of nutritionists are extremely underqualified for the advice they give out, and more often than not reuse generic diet plan templates for multiple, if not all, of their clients. It's extremely easy to get a nutritionist license. Most people who see a nutritionist actually need a registered dietitian. Story 4. I knew someone who tried to get me into a vitamins-type business. I went to a meetup to learn more but didn't sign up. Basically, I had to order off the person who recommended me and then on-sell products. I was like, no. Story 5. Excuse me, sir. Did you know that the leader of my organization has made contact with a supreme all-seeing being? If you believe unquestioningly and give us a portion of your income and convince others or your children to do what our leader says this being wants, he'll reward you. After you die, of course. But if you heard what I just said and disbelieve, you'll be punished instead. Story 6 currency. Fiat money. Now think about it. It's just paper. There is no universal equivalent. For example, in the recent past, the Turkish lira lost almost all of its value. There must be hundreds of hard-working people in Turkey whose lifetime hard work value just became zero. I mean, if they had some papers printed in some other countries, say the USA, their hard work still would have held some value. And this may happen to any one of us, as long as our money does not have a solid base. Like gold. Story 7 University. Not just for-profit ones. You really don't have to do the first 2 years of your degree at a 4-year college. You can do your gen ed stuff at a community college for a fraction of the cost. You get about the same quality of education if you pick a good one. Learn that one after the fact, haha. Story 8. Death. The death industry's bread and butter is people who buy expensive caskets, urns, burial plots, whatever services come between toe tag and urn, etc. Don't fall into the trap of thinking, we need to get the fancy one because we loved our dearly beloved so much. It is a box. It will be buried in the ground a few days after you buy it, after which no one will ever see it again. Same with cremains. The urn reminds you of your loved one, but do you really want, or need, the extra gewgaws? Also consider pre-need planning. Story 9. TurboTax. The largest contributor to lobbyists and politicians to stop any attempt to simplify taxes. The IRS has been ready for years for simple, free online tax returns, but the TurboTax lobby shuts them down. Story 10 brownie mix and cake mix. Any kind of Betty Crocker, Duncan Hines, Pillsbury mix. I will die on this hill. Whoever started boxed mixes was a genius. For brownies, all they put in there is flour, cocoa, and sugar. You, the customer, have to put in the other half of the ingredients. If you bought flour, cocoa, and sugar in big bags, you could make 50 pans of brownies. But instead, somehow, everyone just buys brownie mix for $3 a box, plus the cost of the other half of ingredients for 1 pan of brownies. Some dipshit dumped flour, cocoa, and sugar in a bag, and stuck that bag in a box ISMA style, and is raking in billions of dollars a year. It's ridiculous. Edit. Spelling. Story 11. Financial advisors. None of them can even beat the market average, and you pay them huge fees that wreck your returns. Start a Roth IRA and buy an index fund or ETF. That's all there is to it, but because people won't look that one up, we have an entire industry of people who do that for you, but take a cut of your money. Story 12. Sleep specialist and baby experts. Give me child psychologists and teachers any day. One woman even wrote a best-selling book about looking after children and had no children of her own. Didn't have any experience and said to let them cry till they vomited because they're only wanting attention. Peas studies have been made into for CIO and have found it is detrimental to children. Yes, Children stop calling out for parents, but their cortisol still rises and they still wake up. They just learn the ones they need are not coming to help them. Story 13. Kind of a sidebar to this. My debit card got hit by a skimmer. Somebody managed to use my debit card number and PIN and transfer that information over to a gift card and use it to retrieve money from an ATM. They literally copied my debit card to a stupid little fucking gift card. Dealing with getting the money back has been a huge pain. Story 14. Stop buying Steam and Apple cards for random people who have contacted you through the internet. Jesus. So many people getting scammed, even after we explain it to them. Show them the evidence, have other people talk to them. No helping some of these people. Story 15. Ionized water. What a crock of shit. But it's brilliant because most Americans don't drink enough water, so they ride the wave of benefits from people drinking more water and sell their machine as special water. It's actually such a genius scam I'm jealous I didn't come up with. Story 16. Practically a lot of commercial advertisements on any media source, especially if it involves pharmaceutical drugs. It's not a scam per se, in the common sense of the word, that is. But if one really dug deep and researched to see how marketing and advertising works behind the scenes, and how it's all poured out into the mainstream public, then it could potentially open one's eyes to help many have had the wool pulled over their eyes when it comes to so many things within society. Story 17. Good old pod-based detergents. Stuff is like 2-3x the price of bottled box detergent. Only use case I've ever been able to think of for them is if you have to go to a laundromat or shared laundry room, and carrying a big bottle box of detergent is obnoxious to carry with a full laundry basket. Story 18. Most government programs, like $10/day childcare, for example, only few people actually qualify and only few daycares provide it. But we all pay for it in the end, and due to the administrative overhead, it ends up costing way more per child than if the program didn't exist in first place. Governments create these programs as a way to buy votes from gullible people. They don't actually serve any useful purpose. It's mostly just a make-work project, because now they have to hire people to manage it, but it does not bring in any revenue, it only uses it. If they actually wanted to help people, they would slash the size of government, cut 99% of these types of programs, and lower taxes. Story 19. Gym memberships. At least the gym that I used to go to. I was planning on moving away from my city, so I decided to cancel my membership. First thing I do is I look up online on the website. There is no option to cancel my membership there. First red flag. Then in a teeny tiny text at the bottom, they had written that I need to either call the gym or physically go to the gym to get my membership canceled. Wow. Anyways, I called them and told them I no longer need the membership. They told me that I'd have to come in because there's no way of knowing that I'm the same person as whose membership is. Why would I want to cancel someone else's membership? Anyways, to get done with it, I went to the gym to cancel it. Then they asked me why am I canceling, and I told them I'm planning to move TP another city. They then asked me what city I was going to, probably to try and transfer me to one of their gyms there. But I told them it's not their business. After all this shit, they told me the membership cannot be canceled right away, and I would have to pay for 2 more cycles, 1 month, and then it will be canceled. Absolutely ridiculous. Didn't move cities, but still got my subscription canceled and never went back there. Absolutely horrendous money grab. Story 20. Have you been to the Cuban cigar Reddit and seen just how inundated it is with daily posts of, "Are my cohibas real?" They're literally all fake. Go look. It's incredible. I don't even smoke cohibas and I can tell they're fake, like shit printed upside down fake. You can scroll for 10 seconds and find about 10 examples. Yet every day, more posts about, "I know a guy," or "I got a deal on these." Story 21. Charities. My roommate and I had a long argument where I was trying to get across how charities can be scams and need to be audited regularly, and donators need to research charities before making any sort of sizable contributions. Roommate just couldn't comprehend that a charity would be a scam. Story 22. The diamond industry, specifically as it relates to jewelry. Everything that the average person knows about it stems from propaganda and advertisements created by De Beers. They aren't rare. They aren't worth what you pay for them. They don't appreciate in value and are a terrible investment. They aren't special. Story 23. Literally every single phone call that I get at this point, I just assume that if you're not already in my phone, then it's a scam. I know that Redditors are very savvy about things like this, so don't come for me for explaining the basic. Any emails or phone calls that you get that you feel should be paid attention to, by all means, check it out. But never ever ever use the link phone number provided. Go directly to the site and or app independently and find out if it's a scam. They're getting pretty good. Outside of the scammer payback guy, and others like him, I'm fairly surprised that the United States hasn't started paying more attention to shit like this. I can't see that anything at all has been implemented for consumer protection. If any of you have relatives or friends that are elderly or not very good at technology in general, you need to have a talk with them. Help them protect themselves. Elderly people are the biggest victims of these crimes. Last time I checked, it was in the billions of stolen money from Americans every year. Story 24. Recycling most forms of plastic. It's only a closed loop for HDPE. For the rest, the process is less economical and more carbon-intensive than virgin plastic. It also does very little in terms of reducing plastic. Where the scam comes in is making people think there's a way to use plastic without significant pollution. It's only to reframe industrial use of plastic as a personal responsibility issue. Story 25. All the Dave Ramsey fans will hate me, but both term and whole life insurance, specifically anything from Globe Life. It's a legitimate company with legitimate insurance, but the legal fine print is so dumb that it almost never pays out. The funeral expense voucher is not accepted by a lot of funeral homes because they aren't honored. In TN, they're not enforceable or accepted anywhere that we were able to find when my grandfather died. They denied the hospital stay payment, the lost wage payment, and every other benefit offered in the paperwork. It was supposed to pay my grandmother $3K a month for 2 years, and they gave her a lump sum of $1,800 that was taxed immediately and again at tax time. He put in around $30K paying for this, and it paid out $1,800. He died thinking my grandmother was taken care of financially. Term life insurance is just as bad, but the exclusions are laid out from the beginning. Story 26. Complex, difficult solutions to problems of willpower. If you're not willing to spend 10 minutes 3 times a week doing physical therapy, they'll happily sell you painkillers and then surgery. Might not work as well as PT, but they don't care. If you're not willing to stop doing addiction on your own, you can pay thousands a week for inpatient rehab, fat farm that physically blocks you from doing it, as long as you stay there and keep paying. Or you could just quit on your own, but that's too hard. Story 27. Social Security is just a Ponzi scheme. Stop! Hear me out before smashing the dislike button. Social Security is not invested like Norway's sovereign wealth fund. Oh sure, it's in treasury securities, but that's just investing dollars in dollars, not a true investment. Social Security just shuffles new money to pay out old members. It relies on infinite population growth, and that some percent of the population will die never seeing a penny. It is, under the hood, just a Ponzi scheme. Literally. That doesn't mean it doesn't help people. That doesn't mean it may not be a net good. But it is important that we can talk about underlying systemic issues and criticize things we like. Because if we ever have a population bubble and generational negative growth, Social Security is totally fucked. It cannot handle that, because it's a Ponzi scheme. Story 28. The white van speaker scam. Of course, they have branched off into home theater and other electronics, even perfume and leather jackets, but the MO is always the same. A dude approaches you in a parking lot with extra whatever, and will give you a great deal on it. The mark is meant to think it's a shady deal, in their favor. But the items are often cheap garbage made specifically for this sort of surreptitious deal. Some companies even made websites with grandiose claims and inflated MSRPs. I still see this scam in person and on various online venues. Every couple of weeks someone would tell me about being approached and pitched, and sometimes they fall for it. I've tried to convince some people that it's a scam, but they are so hooked in they can't wrap their heads around how the Bung & Holstein home theater isn't legit if it has a website. Story 29. Most of the health products promoted online, especially juice cleanses or any other type of cleanse, you're really just paying for expensive pee poop. Your liver and kidneys do all the work needed to cleanse your of any toxins. If you have reason to believe they do not, you need to see a doctor ASAP, not buy some detox juice that will give you diarrhea and dehydrate you for $20 off of TikTok shop. Story 30. A lot of Palestinian donation funds have routinely been shown to go straight to Hamas. It's heartbreaking and sometimes impossible to tell. It's worth doing research before donating to X group for Palestine at least. Story 31. Not really a scam, but people will lie about just about anything for money. I know of a few people who have lied about child sexual abuse for hefty payouts. I don't know how anybody with a conscience could even conceive of doing such a thing. Story 32. The credit score system. We have companies that are posing systemic risks to everybody and everything, but they have perfect credit scores. We have mutual funds buying up housing stock, and then turning it into luxury apartments to do money laundering. So it doesn't matter if it stays vacant because they can write off the loss of the rent for tax purposes, and they can adjust rent prices to create higher value without doing much actual work. That system is what enables the climate crisis. That system is what enables for-profit prisons. More than a decade ago, I had the potential opportunity to buy the property I was renting in. It had 4 other units just like mine, and I got along with all the neighbors even. I was working part-time at a federal government job, but I was making more than 3 times the monthly mortgage. So I figured I might get an actual home loan. They denied me because I was a part-time employee. Even though I was a permanent part-time employee, they didn't believe my job was stable enough. I had been at my job for years at that point. I would have been set if I could have gotten that place. I had all sorts of ideas about how to improve it. Then, a few months later, it sold to a mutual fund. They jacked up the rents and I had to leave my home. The real kicker is I got promoted to full-time a month or so after the place sold. So many people are basically locked out of housing. If you are older than a certain age and have medical bills, the chance of you ever getting a home is almost nil. Yet we play along by their rules. We chase that carrot of fundamental human security our whole lives. Yet energy companies can literally kill people, fund coups, torture activists, and their credit score is perfect. You even have to be mindful about what you post on social media. I think that's why a debt strike is such a hard idea to spread. I think it's being algorithmically and socially repressed. Story 33. Yeah, you name it. It could be a scam. I really wish people wouldn't be so naive about things. There are some people who will work a scam like it's a job. They are very believable. Might even seem like they're great people with the best intentions. Unfortunately, given any opportunity to get something for nothing, is just too appealing for people to resist. They will be scamming you while acting like you mean something with ease. I honestly don't know what to specifically name, there are so many. Although when I think about things from the perspective of people not believing it's a scam, my first thoughts are religion, healthcare, education, and help for the poor, homeless. Only because you wouldn't think people would stoop that low. Story 34. I liked the one image I saw once. It was an online shopping page, like Amazon, for a book titled something along the lines of How to Make $700 Easily. The book was listed for about $698, and after tax was added, would have added up to the goal price. I'm not certain on the numbers, but it was that general concept. They may have been closer to $375 as the goal, and selling for about $372. Story 35, Black Lives Matter. While there was a well-intended political movement of the same name, the organization itself is comparable to a megachurch that uses social issues as their deity. Black Lives Matter has about as much interest in social justice as Joel Osteen has in spreading the teachings of Christ. Perhaps the most comical part? The only thing the movement ever accomplished was free advertising for the organization. Story 36. Something that is a scam religion. It seems billions of people can't conceive that there's no deity that has a special interest in the human beings on this planet. From the Vatican and Catholic Church, to televangelists begging for money for their private plane, to suicide bombers believing in 72 virgins, to karma, where your failure to do well in school is because you were a serial killer in a previous life. Okay, I'm exaggerating/contorting things slightly there. The supplements industry, vitamins, although real, in supplements are apparently unregulated and often have far less than the claimed milligrams. They are rarely actually needed for health. That extends into diet pills, natural steroids, and one I almost forgot, homeopathy. As James Randi said, there are no homeopathic contraceptives or HIV treatment. Pseudoscience. Astrology is a scam, palm reading, tarot, talking to the dead, and so on. Lots of famous people believe in this stuff. Peter Sellers consulted psychic healers, mostly, instead of conventional medicine, doctors, and he died of a heart attack in his 50s. I consider scam to mean anyone making money out of the misfortune of someone else. Although still a scam, when greed makes people fall for a con, I'm less sorry for them. Story 37, almost everything that is normalized in Western society. Not smelling like body odor? Only invented when chemical companies wanted to sell us soap. Smoking? Only so tobacco companies can make money. The importance of being in a relationship to be a whole person? You guessed it. Hell, all the love songs you know and love are in on the con, and the songwriter may not even know it. They just write what they figure out will sell, and that is what record companies want to sell. Working the jobs to support the 2.5 kids the American culture told you should have, while vilifying people who don't make more little consumers. You got it. Story 38. My wife and I were both guilty of this the first 10 years of our marriage. Whenever conflict would arise, we would both get immediately defensive and it would spiral and escalate. Second marriage for both of us. Both of us would go into a defensive mindset if we felt we were being attacked. It's a pretty normal reaction. If we had allowed that behavior to continue, the marriage would probably have ended. Part of developing and growing a relationship is learning how to communicate with each other. So I'll say this. If your partner is continually going into a defensive position, stop that discussion and see what triggered their self-protection instinct. Story 39. Disclaimer, I'm in the U.S. Funerals and weddings. The traditions and practices around both are very profit-driven. Everything from engagement rings to the wedding itself. Caskets, it's all a scam. Unprescribed vitamins, multivitamins, there is no reason to take them unless a doctor tells you to do so, which is rare and only required for specific deficiencies. Chiropractic, there is no medical evidence for it. Massages, they feel good and sometimes provide temporary pain relief. Everything else is a scam. Even pointless stuff, like the idea that you should drink water after a massage. Personality tests of any kind. Companies that claim to improve job interviews. Pens that claim to detect counterfeit money. These have never worked in any way. A lot of job training that has no quantifiable impact. Crypto, well, at least a lot of people can't conceive it is. Airport security measures. But also scams kinda creep their way into everything. Every company is constantly looking for every way to reduce costs and increase revenue. They do not care what's real and fake, what actually provides you value or doesn't. All that matters is if you will pay. Nothing escapes and regulation is minimal and ineffective. Thank you very much for watching. If you liked the video, like it. Be sure to write comments and share your stories.